What we will see today is, of course, a short intro to EVT, the structure of the iVision software, some news about iVision 4.0, as far as you didn't have the option to have a look to it, and then the code reading tools, some thoughts about image capturing, and then we use the code reading tools for data matrix codes, OCR, DMC, and barcode, and of course reading also codes on a 3D image. About EVT, we are located in Karlsruhe in the very south of Germany. We have subsidiary in Korea, and we distribute the software through distributors, integrators, and OEM customers. So if it's too fast for you, or if you have some questions, simply ask me. Due to the repetitive introduction, I make it a little bit faster. Yes. So what about EVT? We are in Karlsruhe city center. It's easy to arrive to us if there's no corona. You can reach us directly with the train from the train station. You can even walk or take the Straßenbahn, or either you arrive us over the airport or the highway of Germany. So we are founded in 1999. We have 21 staff members. So we have sales and support with 9 and 12 developers. So you can see we have really a lot of power to support you in the application field or usage of the software. And more important, we can support also our distribution on OEM customers. What our key, our USP development and products are, this is the iVision software. So we have one software for all platforms. I just will talk about this in a few minutes, especially for code reading. It's really interesting. And of course, based on this one software, we also could do OEM application or adaptions, so that you get the software branded for your application or for your company. And what we also develop is some special hardware, especially hardware which is normally not available on the market. Here, in many cases, light and lens is an important part, but also some specialized camera and pre-processing and processing systems, which are not really available on the market, and we get the feedback that it's needed on the market. So for the software, we sell it in different packages. That means, as far as you know the iVision software, we will have a look at it in a few seconds. You can get it with different instruction sets, and based on the instruction sets, the pricing are different. So if you have a look to the very top, the iVision Basic contains the infrastructure and the image capture, what is important for machine vision solution, and all other variants of the software are based on the tool set which are delivered with the software. That means we can always start with a basic software and create all kind of versions or specialized releases, so that either price-wise or the functionality fits to the needs. So sometimes you need a 2D and a 3D. Then neither the standard nor the 3D area may fit, or it overfits or whatever. So you can start with basic and order the tools you need for your application, or any combination of it. I see it sounds a little bit difficult, but it isn't. You can see it in our price lists. There you will see for each tool a price tag, and you can order it based on the tools or based on a package if a package fits much better. And of course, we also do some packaging, and especially for today, it's really interesting. There are the iSense and the iCheck packagings. That means these are smart cameras with a tool set in our today applications, maybe for barcode reading. So you can get an iSense barcode reading to iSense barcode reader. That's a smart camera with the iVision software with the barcode reading tool inside. To have a nice, nice little application, nice little camera with all the code reading inside, and it works. It works with the same software. And of course, as I told you before, you can activate also on these cameras all the other tools so that you can start with, for example, an iSense barcode, and you realize, maybe I have to measure something in the field of view. You can add the tools of the software because it's always the same software. That's why I can suggest to have always a look at it. And finally, we have also a deep learning system which can be added to all the packages, which is very new and which enables a lot of new features or applications to be done based on training of specialized images. So the standard software, as I told you, runs on all kind of hardware platforms. So we have the vision sensor. One example is here on top. I show you some others. After that, the smart cameras, which might be also a vision sensor, but with more software, or any PC or embedded system with an x86 or ARM, where you can connect any kind of camera, like USB, Gigi, Firewire, Camera Link, and QuackExpress. The main thing is you have always the same software. Meanwhile, in the version 4, so I just see here, this is still an old screenshot. You will see the current version, the current version for when we start with the software. Of course, we have localization for the software in our main target languages and markets. There we find, of course, Germany. We are located in Germany, but also English, French, and Spanish, and also Turkish and Russian. Finally, Mandarin, Chinese, the Chinese localization, and Korean and Japanese. If there's a need for other localizations, we are able to do it. But for the moment, we have these ready-made in all new versions. Our markets are as versatile as the software is, because in most cases, the markets don't care, the software don't care about the markets, the software cares about application or tasks which have to be done. So code reading on semiconductor or in the automotive, electronic or pharma industry, food, beverage, it's always code reading. There's no difference between all these markets, and that's why we have all in all these markets and many more customers, because at the end they have always an application. Either they do some measuring or some counting or some code reading and so on. So in normal times, we also try to attend a lot of shows. This year, like last year, most of the shows are cancelled. So the latest cancelled show was a control show for this year, which we hoped that we could attend, but we attended the Automate Forward. This is the Automate show was the Automate show in the US, which was a virtual show this year. So we hope maybe the Graph AI will be maybe as a presence show, and the vision show is for the moment still booked, and we are on the way that we can exhibit there. And finally in December, we are sure Yokohama will be available also as a presence show. because also Yokohama was last year a present show, and yes, so you will have at least maybe 1 or 2 shows where you can see the products live, or you have always the option to see them here in the webinars. So this was the first step. Let's have a look to our code reading part from today. What is code reading? I start with OCR. It's nice and it's very often used. You have on any product, in this case it's a semicon product, some OCR, and you want to read it. Therefore, we have different OCR tools in the software with different approaches for different needs. And of course, you see also the barcode, QR, and DMC code. These are the major codes which are used in industry. Of course, in pharmaceutical industry, there is also the pharma code and the coloring code, which can also be read. This is not part of the standard setup, because these are specialized market solutions. What's really important, even whatever you do, and what with machine vision or with vision systems, the right light and lens, because of course we try to read, especially today, all kind of codes independently how bad the light is, but at the end, if the light is bad, the reading is also not so stable as if the light is good. That's one thing what is always really important if you do any kind of machine vision. And I highly recommend either to have a look to our presentation, The Ray of Light, which explains the different kind of light, the different kind of lens, and all the kind of filters, which makes it really stable and helps you to have a very good machine vision solution, either for measuring but also for reading. And in many cases, if you see there is a good reading application, there's also a good light for that. And if you need a webinar, or if you want to hear it, on what kind of things you have to think about of light and lens, we will have, I think in 2 months, this webinar, Selection of Light and Lens for Vision Application. I really can recommend this to get to have a full intro about all these different kind of lights, especially also for color applications, because color is different, because based on the light, color could be solved either based on different lights, or with color camera, or with both, to have a stable machine vision solution. Yes, our key points for our today's webinar is the code reading. Of course, first of all, we need an image, so you have also a short look to the image capture. But as you can see, independently, there is only one image capture functions, one image capture function to capture all kind of images. If you have gray color or 3D image, or even a thermal image, of course, we can also read OCR on thermal images, because at the end, for the code reading, it's the same. And we have some additional tools to convert the different images to the right format that the code reading tool can work. Simply at the end, the code, of course, one can make special tools for all kind of images. At the end, the result would be a lot of tools with the same functionality, but which take care on the different images. And our strategy is different, as the strategy is on the complete EyeVision software. We have the different conversion tools and make a good image so that we can read it. This is the functionality. That's different approach to, let's say, some specialized function which can read always. Of course, then they have to then they need internally thousands of tests if this image is a thermal image or a 3D image, and then the conversions and everything, which needs computational power and which results at the end in longer calculation times, and especially on not so powerful platforms like smart cameras, this makes no sense. So we have this easy to train tool with the drag and drop programming, and of course for the user there is he has to think about what he wants to do, but then he can optimize it for each image, and he gets the fastest solution out of it. So we'll have a look at it in a few seconds. What I told you just a minute before, for the EyeVision software, the major thing is we have data streams. That means, of course, we name it as it's normal in the industry, 2D gray and color image, or 1D line scan, or 3D point cloud, or maybe 8 or 16-bit or 32-bit whatever image, let's say a thermal image or an X-ray image. At the end, it's a data stream, and the EyeVision software can handle this data stream to operate on it. And the target OCR tools can operate on some of the data streams, but with the conversion functions, you can convert, for example, a color image into a gray image, either in the complete, from the complete image, or from part of the image, and so on. And the same is, for example, in this 3D, which you see on the upper left. There we have a 3D point cloud. We see it in reality a few minutes. And after some conversions, or one conversion at the end, we have this gray image, which can be read by an OCR tool. So when we are there, we'll also explain why our approach is the better one, especially why not making an OCR tool for the point cloud, because I will explain later. So yes, let's start with a short overview of the supported hardware. I think it's important, or it's nice. You have all these tools for code reading, and as I told you, we have all these different hardware platforms, and of course on all these platforms the same software runs. That means you can make a very small solution with a smart camera to a very complex solution based on a complex PC. Therefore, I make a really fast walk through the hardware of the EyeVision. If you have some questions, simply ask me, or you can review this in the webinar when we release it on a YouTube channel, or you download simply our presentation about the hardware. So I will only say a few words about the hardware. It's a specific hardware, and you only have to have in mind that you can use the code reading tools with all these hardware platforms. So if you need a very compact compact camera, then smart cameras are a nice solution. There are a lot of manufacturers which are supported by our hardware. So you will see on the left side all the PC, let's say, mostly x86 based components on the right side, the ARM-based components. So therefore, when I say x86 and ARM, that means the ivision software runs also on both hardware platforms. This means as well as ARM and PC-based x86 Intel or AMD CPUs. If you have an Intel AMD CPU, you can use either Linux or Windows. On ARM systems, we support Linux. So this, I don't explain so much about the cameras. You can see it in our presentation. This is a PC-based ARM camera. This is also a PC-based ARM camera. And each of these cameras has some advantages and disadvantages. Some have a video output, some don't. Some have I/O, some don't have. So the interesting thing is, because we support all these smart cameras, you simply can use them and see which fits best to your needs, either from the resolution or from the I/O capability. The same, or from the CPU speed. The same is here for the ARM-based CPUs, or maybe from the size. These small, or from the protection grade. These are here, for example, IP65 with built-in light. So it's really nice to make, based on this one, some code reading sensors. Of course, these sensors, let's say it this way, or these smart cameras don't have mostly video connection. The only option to show the images is over our transfer protocol. So we can show all the images on a connected PC laptop. You anyway need for these systems a laptop and use the remote programming tool of the ivision software. This is a special option of the ivision software. We have a seminar for that to see what you can do with the remote programming option. So as you can see, there are different manufacturers with different CPUs, sensor sizes. Here, the interesting thing is on the top. This is a real small camera. It's about 1 by 1 by 2 centimeters with a built-in CPU, and also for lights. It's really small, and you can build a really nice small code reader. Or here is one example of our own hardware. This is a line scan smart camera. You can use also this one if you collect some lines of code with OCR or barcode inside, or any of the other codes. You can read, or can also make a code reader based on a line scan camera. The question is, why did we develop this? Because there was no line scan camera on the market which could be bought, and that was one of the reasons why we developed this. This is another area scan smart camera. It's not so big, and it has Linux on board, and of course the ivision software runs on it. Of course, beside of these ready-made smart cameras built in a housing, which you simply can attach your mesh in and run the ivision software on it, we also support a lot of embedded systems, mostly ARM-based, and you can use also these either with a standard camera connected to the GigE or USB interface, or maybe also with based on the MIPI interface. If they have, most of them have a MIPI interface. Here, this example is the Raspberry Pi 3 Raspberry Pi, also the latest one. This is really powerful, small PCB, and you get a lot of MIPI camera modules, not only from the Raspberry Pi Foundation, also from some other manufacturers like Basler, which you simply can connect to it and make your reading solution. That means you simply put the ivision software on it, and you can use the code reading tools, which we discuss later. Of course, you see here, this is the Raspberry Pi 4 or the Pine Pi, and a lot of other similar small PCB boards which you can use for your application. Or finally, also the NVIDIA platform, hardware platform, which is really nice if you use the deep learning feature, which might be also interesting for some of the code reading tools. Especially the GPU of NVIDIA enables the fast computation of deep learning networks for some kind of codes, code recognition, but a lot of other things. And finally, of course, you can get also a lot of these PC boxes. I think you know them from a lot of advertisements, different manufacturers. One of the well-known is Intel with this NUC PC, or this small compact unit with 4 power over Ethernet interfaces and DIN rail attachment. You simply use the ivision software, any of the camera, and you can make a very nice code reading application. For all these Ethernet base, all these systems with Ethernet, all the smart cameras do have Ethernet, you can run also our Profinet stack to connect directly, for example, to a Profinet or OPC UA or MQTT, of course. Or these standard PC boxes with different CPUs from different manufacturers. This is only one example of it. I think you know different other manufacturers which have these PCs. And finally, of course, these standard PCs where you can put some additional boards inside, as long as you don't want to use the standard interfaces like USB 3 or GigE. You can also use CoaXPress and Camera Link or analog interface boards. Of course, nowadays it's no longer a state of the art. So with our software, we support all these interfaces if you use a standard PC to make your solution. And a lot of boards, if you don't want to use the standard interfaces, of course you need some manufacturers of boards for these non-standard connections like CoaXPress or Camera Link. Of course, sometimes GigE interface is also nice if you have some pre-processing units. If you simply need any of these boards, then you are free to select one of the manufacturers and use them. Finally, I think you know these standard components which you can use to build up your code reading tool. I think in the most cases, an embedded system or smart camera is used. If you don't have any way some cameras are connected to a PC where you want to read the codes. For the communication, there are a lot of communication protocols available in the software. So that, of course, code reading is one thing. The communication of the code reading is different. Sometimes you do only, let's say, an OCV. That means you need from somewhere the code you have to verify. Then you can say good or bad, or you need to send out the data which you collected from either the barcode, QR code, or OCR reading. Then you need some communication, and therefore we have all standard protocols, especially also the MQTT protocol is very nice if you make a small little application where you only want to send out the reading data. Also for the normal PLC I/O, you have different boards. You have to look at it in our presentation. It's only a short overview that you see what we can do. And of course, we also support all major manufacturers of cameras, so that you are free to select the right manufacturer for the right application. Here are only some examples. I don't go too much in detail because I think you know most of the cameras. Mainly, I used it to show the different interfaces. And finally, of course, I told you the MIPI is an upcoming nice interface on most of the embedded boards to make compact solutions. And of course, we had this 3D camera reading application. We support a lot of the 3D cameras from different manufacturers, as which you can use to get your point cloud and do the code reading. Mainly, you need the right resolution to do the code reading, and therefore you simply have to select the right camera for what fits best to the code reading you want to do. The character at the end needs a number of pixels to do the reading perfectly, and based on that, the right sensor have to be selected. Of course, you can also use this real sense. The nice thing is you have the gray and color images to read the codes. I think this was a short overview. The main thing is you have a lot of hardware which you can use to do code reading with the EyeVision software, and which hardware you want to use depends on the needs you have for your code reading. This was the short outlook to the different hardware platforms, and I can recommend to download the hardware overview and have a look by yourself, or simply ask us what hardware would fit very well to your needs. So as I told you, you can use the code reading on all these platforms, and for the application itself, there's no difference. Let's start with the EyeVision software and try to do some reads, code reading, and explain how it works based on these examples. So I hope everybody has downloaded, or to test it later, downloads the EyeVision software, and also the project packages to have some basic material, so that you don't have to capture your images by yourself. But anyway, I just forgotten to remember, besides the MIPI, which is a standard interface, all of the standard PCs, either with Linux or with Windows, there is the Video for Linux or DirectX interface. Maybe we have a look, we have a look to the hardware configurator. If you don't have one of the cameras which I showed you before, you can use any of these embedded platforms, maybe only, for example, the Raspberry Pi. And there, if you have a Linux system, you have Video for Linux, and if you have a Windows system, you always have the Direct Show interface. This means this is the Direct Show driver, which allows you to use any of the attached USB cameras, either the built-in webcam from your laptop, or a USB connected camera to capture images and work with these. So you don't have to test the software to buy a specialized machine vision camera. If you don't have a spare of this, you simply use one of these cameras, and independently, whatever camera you have, you select it here. If you use Allied Vision and you don't want to use the GeniCam standard driver, which is also here anywhere, you can use the native driver, which is mostly more powerful than the GeniCam standard driver, and you can use it. You simply follow here the instructions how to install this driver and use the native driver from the manufacturer of the different cameras here. Or, as I told you, you use Direct Show or Video for Linux if you have a Linux system. And after you have selected it, you simply apply the hardware, and the hardware will be then available if you start the iVision software. So you have to do this hardware configurator first before you start the iVision software. That's why I stopped the iVision software and restarted it now again. With one of the next iVision releases, you will have the hardware configurator integrated so that you are free to select it while the iVision is running. This will be one of the new features. For the first step, as I told you, you should simply download our examples. We have a look to the code reading examples, and I would start today with our standard OCR training demo, and you see here, this is our project structure, which means if you select, if you have a project, all the connected things which belongs to the project are part of one set of functions. Also, which is really important, also all the settings for the cameras, also the hardware settings. This makes it much easier to handle different projects on one system, and also all the settings are combined in one project. What is a project? Maybe I simply opened it now, and I selected this project as our starting project because I can show you some of our OCR tools. The OCR tools belongs to our code reading section. And you see here the first OCR toolset, which is our standard OCR toolset, and the second one on the below line. So we will discuss which is better for what, or what advantages are where. But let's have some words about the project, because it's really a real nice feature, and especially if you need some help, if you start programming with the iVision software and you don't think why it's not working or so, and you need some support from our support team. So finally, of course, we have our support team. They have a support address. It's called support@evd-web.com, where you can send us the questions. And we always recommend, if you have questions, simply send us first of all the project on which you are working, because then we can understand what questions you have and we can help you exactly for that question. So what is a project? To see what a project is, you can go to the file menu and you see show data directory. So show data directory is where iVision stores all the information, not the program itself, but the information about all the what belongs to the data section. On Windows, of course, you can find it in the standard path. It's C program data. This is where Windows stores for all other manufacturers or all other installed programs the stuff. And then you simply search for EVT and then iVision, and then you have the information. So why we did this? Because first of all, on Windows, the program data is a hidden folder. You have to unhide it to find it. And on Linux, it's totally different. It depends on the distribution where this folder is. And to make it faster to find the right folder, we made this show data directory option here on file, in the file show data directory. Then we are automatically here. And you will find the projects subfolder, which is really important for the moment, or which we want to discuss. If you know iVision 3 or older versions, you still think, oh, projects, what's that? Projects is the new devices folder, because of course the projects folder has more information inside. This, if you have an old installation or a double installation with an old 3 point whatever version, you still will find the devices folder. if you look inside of the devices folder and we look inside of the projects folder, they look independently that we have only 2 subfolders here. They look similar. But of course, the projects folder has some advantages because in the projects, we now store also all the camera information. Let's say based on the connections you are using, so you can mix up the different connections. I think you know that. You can connect the Kiki, USB 3 and Co-Express camera to one project. And of course, you can also have different settings for all these cameras, always depending on the project. And with the iVision 4 version, we now store all this locally for each project. Before we stored this, that's why here this structure is a little bit bigger. We stored some of the settings in global variables, because in most applications you attach your your camera to a machine, and then you have the same cameras at the same machine, and you don't switch between these. But of course, especially for the programming environments or for people who make different applications, it's always difficult then. That's why we changed now the structure so that everything is in the projects, and the projects knows also which hardware is there, and it's not a one global setting. Anyway, so the important thing is you can download these projects or devices, but let's stay on the iVision 4 version, and you download, for example, the 2D area examples, and there you will find a lot of examples. But for today, we have the code reading examples, and each of these has all the information about the application, or let's say the project. For us, an application is a project. Based on images, as I told you, for example, this is the chip control. We have 2 images. More images are always better, but sometimes one has more. But you have also the different layouts. A layout is what you see here in the background. I will show you a more complex in a few seconds to see how you can make GUIs, user interfaces. Layouts are user interfaces. And of course you have also the programs which can operate on these images. And finally, if you have a web server integrated, a web page for your project, so then you can, the data are also stored for these, for the web server, how to show you the outlook for the controls. Maybe, yeah, let's say, okay, if you do something and you want to have support, that's where we came from. I highly recommend simply that you start always with a project. And if you make a new project, this structure is automatically set up, and then you can store your images either from the camera or from wherever you have it in the images folder, and you start programming it with programs. So we do a short demo with an empty project in a few seconds, and then you can see how it works. And why we recommend to have this project structure and send us a zipped project, then our support can help you very easily. Yes. So finally, we discussed the project, and we see here we do this OCR reading. This is a simple OCR reading. Why we did this? Because it shows all these steps which have to be done to work with our standard OCR tool. The standard OCR tool, these are these 3 tools here. enables you to train any kind of character. This doesn't have to be at the end real characters. You can also train Korean, the Korean or Japanese or Chinese, let's say small pictures, and he can read this later then. I've forgotten the word for these small pictograms. And yes, that's how it works. So how do we program this? Therefore, maybe you see now we have this reading tool running, and because this is the most complex, complex part, and where you have to do most of it, I would start with this tool. All the others are very simple, and you will see not so much to discuss how it works. Of course, always the same. You have to make a nice image. Either you do it with light and lens, and if you don't do it, if you cannot do it with light and lens, you have to you have to use maybe some filters to do image improvements if the image is not so stable. That's why we always recommend to have a good image based on a good light. Good light means good machine vision. Bad light means bad machine vision. And code reading is machine vision. So let's say this is our first thing what we want to do. And with this, we also learn how the iVision software works and all the data streams and everything inside of the iVision. We start with a new project. So we name it, we give him a name. That's what I suggested. So we say webinar, and we name it 090, well, let's say webinar 21 and OCR classic. So now you see the system is reset to default. That means that's how the software starts, but the major important thing is you see on the very top, webinar 21 OCR classic, that's our project name. And now if we go to show data directory and we go into the project settings, you will see here we have our folder webinar 21, and we see here immediately we have all the defaults. So we can now start. If you have some documentation about your project, what you are doing and why, so you have here the special folder where you can store all of this. This would help because you can store this. Maybe if you have to maintain it later or whatever, you have all the information collected in the project. So we recommend if you have something which belongs to your project, you can store it here. Whatever information, this documentation folder is not used by the iVision software. It's only available for support information or some additional documentation. For example, if you look to our chessboard example, which enables you to do distortion correction and some other stuff, you will find, for example, in documentation how some additional documents about it, and a basic chessboard which you can print and a lot of other stuff. So if you have a project from us and you think, oh, it would be nice, for example, to have some more description or so, maybe you have a look into the documentation folder and you find there some additional information. Anyway, now it's empty, and of course we don't have images. That's what I told you. The first thing, we need some images on which we can work. So now, for now, we know we want to make this same demo. So we go to the our folder which we opened before, and we say training demo, and we simply open up here our OCR. No, we don't. Here we are. we simply copy this into our new project in the image folder, and now we are either you do it in subfolder or you do it in the main folder. That doesn't matter, but now we have images. This is something which we can work on. So first of all, what helps for later work is you say, okay, I need one image, or maybe you need two camera viewers because you want to make pre-processing on another image, or if you have multiple cameras, you can add as many of these camera viewers to your main screen. And now, of course, we have to coordinate this, or let's say each time we open this project, we want that all the components are at the same place. This is one part of the GUI builder, or we say layout editor. You simply can say what we recommend. You can do, let's say, a development view for OCR training. So you can make as many of these layouts as you want to have. And after you've done this, you can use this as your start layout. That means each time the EyeVision is now, this project is opened, you get the camera, the program editor here, the camera viewer 1 and 2 here, and maybe we want to print out the results to a result display. We want to have this one here. Then you simply put the result display on this place, and you overwrite the existing one. Then the result display belongs also to it. And maybe you say, oh, I want to have a nice background color, so I recommend an orange one, for example, and it's also stored. So each time you open it, and you have set it first, I show it to you also, you get this one. So now we could start with the OCR programming first. And what is important, we need to capture an image. So we open image acquisition, and normally I would take this one and drag it over here. But as you see on the top, no program loaded. If I try to do this, it's not working because no program loaded. So of course you need an empty program, check program. The first thing is you make an empty one. Now it's unnamed, and you see it's no longer great, and you simply can drag over the image capture tool. Either you capture now from the built-in camera, if there's a connected camera, or if it's not, then you can simply load it from a fixed file or from different files from a folder. In this case, we simply say, okay, we use from a fixed file, and then we have this the image from the fixed file. So of course now we are in image memory 1. Why? Because image memory 1 was active and image memory 0 was not active. I prefer to start with 0. It's more, you can start with 1. So you simply have now on both the image memory 1. Let's save this as our first program. We say, okay, OCR training, PRG training. It's by default the CKP, a check program. Now this is our first program. It's always doing the same. It loads the file into our image memory. As I told you, we had the EyeVision works on data streams, and data streams are viewed in the camera viewer. In this case, it's a gray image. How do we see it? In the type here, gray. If it's color image, you will see color. And of course, if you're in the image area, you will see not only gray, you will see the RGB value of the color. Or if it's a point cloud, you will see it's a point cloud or something else. But now for the code reading, we have this nice, very well illuminated black and white image, which is always good for operation. So at the end, you should try to make nice images. If you don't have nice images, either improve the light in the lens or use a filter. But from the way, first try to improve the physics, means light and lens, and then use the electronic improvement with light with the filters. Anyway, so our standard OCR tool, code reading, means is in the section of code reading, and of course you can here simply go through it, and you will see we find the code reading under the edge detection. So based on our, if you buy by default a code reader and nothing else, then your search is smaller because you simply get a reduced instruction set, and then you have only maybe the code reader and the image acquisition and filter tools. So you have only three of all of these subfolders. Right now, we have the main instruction set for the demo, so that's why we have so many tools here inside. So the code reading by default, we have some pre-trained classes, but the interesting thing is of this code reading tool, you can train your own character set. This is really powerful because you are not dependent on what we pre-trained. And you can adapt it to nearly everything. Of course, it's a little bit more pain, but it helps you in some cases. So the first thing is always the initialization. You say, okay. Where do I know it? Simply, if you don't know how to use it, you simply go to either to the manual or you activate the context help. And of course, if you drag a tool into the program editor, you get immediately some information of this tool and to how to work with it. So the first thing would be we do, okay, the wrong one was active. We see it. Normally we should activate this one, and then we hit 0 as we had it, but in this case, yes. Anyway, we go to the region of interest and we tell the system, look, here are the characters, our training characters. Of course, if you have never trained the system, you need to train it, and that's what we're doing first here. We train the character set and we say, okay, let's test it. And if you have a very good illumination, you don't have to think so much about it. It's a standard configuration is good. In this case, we are finished. The segmentation system, in this case it's segmented, can find the characters by itself without doing anything. That's always nice. We can discuss later how to improve this step by step, but let's say now we are happy for this. And then you need the classification, means the recognizer. And of course, you have to give if you have a character set, let's say it's OCR A, jars, or however you name it. If you have your own character set, you can name it however you want. And you test it and he says, okay, he cannot read it. You see it on top of all the characters. Of course, he doesn't know it because the classification is still empty. So that means in this case, you have to do the classification. And therefore, you have here display configure or training. And what you have to do is you have to tell the system what the characters are. Of course, you have to do it once, but mostly it's not so difficult. And if you have not all characters, it's not needed to train all the characters. We recommend to have a training session where you simply train the characters, and a reading session where you then use the trained character set to do the reading. So, but here, for example, I do this training for the characters, and yes, it will take us a few seconds, and you see, okay, how it works. That means, of course, if you make here an error, your code reader is working also wrong later. It's nearly the same like you train a network, or if you have, of course, trained it once, you don't have to do it second time. As long as it's the same character set, it's perfect. So now we say, okay, we finished this, and we can say save this as new configuration. We can add this to the pattern class. So we made an error. You see here, we can say, okay, you have to go back to configure, and this was wrong. And test. Okay, now I think this was okay. This was wrong. We have to go back. That happens when we don't think about things. Okay. No, wait a second. Configure. Let's see. BCDFG. It can OP QRST. Save configuration. Okay. So, and now we see here on the top the red. On top we see the right, now the recognition of the parts. So now we could make, this is our training program. That means, of course, we only trained these top characters. And of course, now we could make a program which does the reading part. And so we use simply the same file. And of course, we do the initialization, but then we use this code reading. And because it's nice, we simply say, okay, we want to read this one. And you see it's also working. And then based on the classification, now we have a classification file. So we have to select it. And we select here our OCR charts, which we trained before with the other program. And you see here now in our webinar RIDS, you find these characters belonging to our project. And if you read now, we see, okay, maybe you can see it, we make it a little bit bigger. You see here now we have KA, EZ1, EZ, and of course this is also wrong because he said, okay, this one looks very much like an eye, because we didn't train the numbers. So we could have a look to our, and you see, of course, we have a red because we said we need a minimum confidence and of 38, and we could have a look to the, first of all, to the result vector. And we could also have a look to our data viewer and see in the value registers. Now, if you run it now, you see it, we have 99, 99, 96. So we couldn't recognize this. And we have a 98.3 for the 1. So if our total, normally, if you say, okay, I need a 90% accuracy that we read it, you will see, okay, now we have also an error in 1. So the 80% depends on the programmer. what to do now? So let's say we name this OCR reading. What to do now? Because we have this this training, or we have the OCR tool has the option to do trainings. We simply have to train, let's say, also the dash. So first of all, that's interesting. We don't have a dash here, so we cannot train the dash. Of course, we can steal it from here. But the other thing is we have to train the numbers. And to do this, we simply have to do the same like we did it for the alphabetic characters. And to make it easier, we simply copy these lines here and we paste them here. And what we are doing here is simply move the training section now to this point and see, yes, that's working. And of course, we train it to the same character set because these numbers belong to the same character set. And now we simply go to the character training and go to the configuration. And then he suggests us, okay, 0 looks similar to a U, that's wrong. 1 looks similar to a I, that's also wrong. We know it and we deleted it. We say here, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 looks like a B, yes, of course, if it's not trained and so on. And of course, we also save the configuration. We do a test. And at the end, we see, yes, now we read the alphabetic characters and the numbers additionally. So now we, of course, can read the numbers. If we go back to the reading section and we read it and we realize, yes, now we have also 1, and now 1 has also 99%. So now we have only left 1, the dash. So for this case, you have to go back to the training tool and do the training again. In this case, we do the same, and because we don't have we don't have printed the dash, we simply train it based on a use dash. Yes, normally we recommend to print all the characters once on a page which you want to use later, and then use them for training. But at the end, configure and we train this as dash, save configuration, and now if you run it, we have here also a dash. That means if you go back to the reading tool and we simply run it, we see here that we should have the dash, and now the dash is still 96. Maybe I've forgotten to train it. Let's see. Training, zack. So let's have a closer look to the dash, what he means. Okay, that's a dash. We have to retrain it maybe. No. Okay, the result is still too bad. So it seems that this should work anyway. We have here the, yeah, should work anyway. So configure, let's make a dash again, train it, save configuration, add as pattern to class. Okay, let's see. So let's go to this one. Yes, our dash is still not good enough here. Let's try the other one. And we have here the dash is now very good. And now our training character, the A is 89, nearly 90. So maybe we are a little bit too whatever, too exact, to yes, we need too high accuracy level, and then we don't get, then of course we can see why we cannot read it. And in this case, all the characters are meet we have 89%, nearly 90%. So the question is, where is the decision point for this? So okay, this is one of the options. And the real powerful thing is you can train your character set. Of course, you have to work a little bit with it, and maybe it's more complicated. The other option is, of course, we could do the same here. Load image fixed. So I use the same for training here, and we use our let's say advanced OCR tool. And of course, here you can also select where you want to read it. And as you can see, there is a pre-trained network in the background. You simply can say, okay, simply try to read it. And it makes it much easier for you to operate on it. And it immediately gives you the EZ1, which we also had on the other one. So let's save this also. OCR new. So this is our new reader. Of course, why not using always this one? Simply because you cannot train the character set, and of course in the background is a network, and it works well, but sometimes you have to do some pre-processing to have a somewhat good background image. We will have a look later on it. So this is the, let's say, the convenient tool, which makes it really easy to do code reading without a lot of thinking about how to read characters. So this tool also allows you to do multi-line read. With the standard tool. You have to, as we did it here, let's say with the standard tool. Of course, if you want to, now we read here standard reading, activate, run. So we read this one, and if you want to read the next line, of course you have to simply copy this and paste it and select where you want to read, because this works only on these sections. So it is a little bit more difficult, but gives you, let's say, also more strength in how to control when you read what. Of course, with the new reading tool, as I showed you, you can do multi-line, or you can simply, you can put 5 times the tool. We can do the same like we did it below. So we can say we read only this line, and we simply copy this and paste it here and move the search area, for example, to this one here. Of course, this works also with this one. This is one of the more powerful tools, but on the other side, because there is deep learning network behind of it, we have also a little bit more computational power, which might be also a reason why using the classic tool. If we compare the classic tool, now we have here 25 milliseconds in the average, and here on this tool we have no, this is the wrong one. On this new read tool we have 83 to 76 milliseconds, somewhat in this. So we need really more computational power. At the end, which one is the right? It depends. You have to test it, which fits best for you. Of course, this is the lazy one, which makes it very easy, but also costs you a little bit more CPU power to work on it. So if you don't think the computer thinks for you, and this means we need some calculation power. What can be done at the end, either with this one or with the other one. Of course, as you can see it here, we read now the code, and we have here on top, of course, if you enlarge it, we have here the result string. But you have also in the ivision software a lot of features to operate or print it or send the resulting images to any other computer or PLC or whatever. And first of all, we use the printing tool, for example, and the easiest way, you print it in your field of view. Therefore, you simply can take this one and say, okay, text, we want to print it. We use the text is stored in a global string. What is the global string? I will tell you in a second. And we print it here. Of course, before we have it in the global string, we should put it in the global string so we can have a look here. We are on the right size, and we use the control tool and tell this tool, please send the result to our global string. If we do this, we can print it here, and now you get here the print in our normal memory. So here you can also add the size, and this is a standard of the ivision software, how to make this, and also the color. So you can use one of the standard colors, or you can say according to the result, and as long as the result is good, the color is green or standard is pink. So this is one option, or I added this results display. If you want to display the result in the result display, you can simply add it here to the result display. That means for the user, he don't have to look inside of this inside of the to the camera viewer. He simply has all the results on the result display. So we will see some examples for this in a few seconds. Only that you see it's possible to make this kind of transfer, of course, as long as it's in the result string, or if you transfer something to the result string, you can send it to anywhere, not only to display it. Let's say we open up the global string, so I will close the value register, And you see here, this is a string which can be operated on. That means also, if you have this string, you have also the option not only to print it here in the display, but you can say, okay, send it. And either you send it in a file or to a serial adapter if there is one at the computer, or you send it to a network IP address, or you send it by TCP/IP. And at the end, the resulting OCR string or barcode string or whatever, this belongs to all the code readers, are sent over to any kind of target computer. So, and now, of course, we didn't give him a good address. Now he waits for the response of that address. And at the end, it waits for a timeout because the port 192.168.0.1 was not able to receive this string. That means the timeout, 5 seconds plus somewhat, is used. That's why we waited so long. In this case, I disable it. So therefore, now we have also just a short idea about why we have this column here. You can activate and deactivate the tools which are in the program. I think maybe a short word only how to program the ivision software. I think you saw it anyway. We made some example, or I made some examples with it. You simply select the tools from the left side and you drag it into the program editor to the C column for the command column and release it. And then you do the configuration of each tool, and then the tool is working. If you don't want to if you want to prevent the tool from being executed, you have this execution column. Here you have 4 or more options. Right now you have more options than 4. At the very beginning there are only 4, and the new one will be coming up now. You say never, this is what we have now, or you say always, this is what you have by standard, or you can say execute it only in configuration mode, in process mode, in debug mode. This is really helpful if you have some errors and you want to execute some of the tools only in some of the modes. Especially the process and configuration mode is really interesting because you can distinguish between I'm at the machine or I'm not at the machine. In case on the machine, I want to grab the images from the camera. In case on the configuration mode, maybe you're on your laptop, you simply grab the images from the file, for example. And of course, we have the other columns, maybe a word to it. The G column is for the graphics overlay. So if I deactivate the graphic overlay from this here, then you will see it. We still have the result here, the printed result, but you don't have the graphics, which prints you the boxes and everything. And or you can say here now it never prints it, or it prints only if there is an error. That means if some of the boxes are not working, or it's, some other error, or always, then it's printed as always, then you see it always. This is the graphics overlay. The text overlay is the same. So each tool which is executed generates a text output, and the text output gives you information about the tool, if the tool was successful, and the major results of the tool. This text output goes directly into our log file, which helps us also to help you if you have any problems. Therefore, I would have only a short word to the log file. You see the log file under log terminal. You click to this and it opens up. And here we see for all the character recognition, the results of for all the tools. And of course, we see here also the TCP/IP error when sending strings, send on network address, blah, blah, was not working. So if you have only here, or we had it when we activated it, a red, maybe it's still red if I reactivate it, yes, let's say we wait for 6 seconds and we see it again. Then you will see here at the end, we have here the network error. So here you have only a red mark, it's not working. And here you see, okay, we have the network error. We should take another address, another TCP IP address, because we do a TCP IP transfer. If you use UDP, then of course it's going to nowhere and you have anyway a green signal. Maybe another word to the log file, only why it's important and why you should have a look at it. If you think there is any, if you have any problems with the software, you can save the log file and you get VC immediately, or why maybe we cannot, why you cannot access maybe backoff, or why you cannot send something to the RC2C2 port because there's no port, and so on. All the information is here which we need to help you, and you can save this by simply write log file, and then you get also the location where the log file is, and you can send it to us. And of course our support can help you. So finally, we had a look to it. We have also the print of it. I think you to see how the OCR tool is working, we have this ready-made example in code reading and training demo. This is, so I close it, no. So now we open up this project, and then you see, okay, this project has also a different background, as you can see, and we have only 2 displays open. And as you can see, we have also, we have 2 displays open, and we have multiple outputs to the result display. This is only a short demo, which shows you how to make it. First of all, how to read the OCRs and how to do the training and everything. That makes it much easier for you to get an idea how to work with it. Another option is, we have this color demo. That means, of course, if you have color images and you want to read on the color images the OCRs, of course, this is a small error, which is only in my version, which I have for the moment. If you download the latest version 4 with this, then it works. So this is a demo for our new OCR, and you see, of course, we have here a color image. You see it here on the bottom line, it's color. So you see here also the color values if you go with the mouse over the color image. And of course, the OCR tool, this OCR tool, the new one, can also read in the color area. But why did I do the conversion? That's what I told you. It's a deep learner, and he, for the moment, we just improving it a little bit. Okay, I want to go to 0. You can see here, for some reasons, he doesn't read it always perfectly here. And this is mainly the problem because of the not so good quality of the color image. That's why we recommend, if you know the color, you can do a color conversion first of all, or either with a normal RGB to gray conversion, or you do only you do a color conversion if you use the color filter, where you do a direct filtering to these. So you can select, okay, I want to have green. If you know it's only green, you can optimize it for green and generate based on this filter the optimal gray contrast on which the OCR is working. In this case, because these colors are really disjunct, it's very easy to make it simply based on a gray to RGB to gray conversion. You don't have to do more. And of course, what we also do, which disturbs a little bit the OCR recognizer, are these small dots from the printing. So if I deactivate the erosion, you will see we get some errors because the recognition tool detects a lot of other stuff which he classifies as dots. Of course, they are dots, and of course they are, for everybody it's clear, they are these dots doesn't belong to a number, so you don't want to have it. That's why you can use, for example, then the erosion tool or any of the other filter tools from the morphology to eliminate these smaller parts, to have a stable reading on all these bumpers. These are, yes, for people who working with weights, they know what it is. It's called bumper, I heard. And you can read it. You can read any colored image. And of course, you can print these resulting values either also to a result display, or of course, as we had a look to it, we have it in the global string. You can send it also to anywhere where you have to recognize, okay, this is the right bumper or not. So finally, we spend a lot of time for OCR. Of course, I think many of the cases are OCR, and maybe a last word to OCR is that we still improve the deep learning OCR to make it much more stable, especially on very low contrast stuff. And you should have always a look to these new tools. Let's have a look to some other reading stuff. And here we go back to our reading section. And I think I don't show you how to train all this in specifically. We open, no, let's say cancel. This was, I wanted to, these are converted projects from 3 to iVision 4, and so the old 3 file is still here, so we should delete it. If you convert it, you simply delete it, and we say no, and now it opens up the DMC reader, and here you see an example for DMC code reading. And of course, here you see also an example for a different user interface. So here we have the user different buttons, only for start reading, for stop reading. You see the reading results here in the DMC command. And of course, we can go to the integration, and we see immediately in integration, this DMC code reader is one tool. And why is it so slow? Because we have here the stopwatch. The stopwatch means each time he is here, he waits for 600 milliseconds. So why do we have it? Because stop it. So because if we don't have the stopwatch here, it would like this. It would look like this. That's very nice. You can see we can read the codes very fast, and but maybe 600 is really too long. It's enough if you make 100, and then it still looks a little bit faster, but not too fast. I'll store it. So like our new OCR reader, the DMC code reader, as the QR code reader also, is let's say a very simple solution. That means if you have you simply give him, either you give him an area where he reads it, or you tell him simply checks the complete image. Then if you don't care about the speed, of course the speed is not so slow, you can give him read any code if it's mirrored or not mirrored, and whatever, if it's black and white, and read it. So that's you only have to modify this maybe if you want to improve the speed, but if the speed is okay, you don't have to think about this. And here you can simply say where to print the result values and how to print it. It's nice, but that's all. So the result is as before. It depends on what you said here, but normally you put the results also into the global string, and if you have the result text in the global string, of course you can simply print it here as you do it here in our result display here. Or you can use any of the communication tools to send it to anywhere where you want to do the resulting to send out the result code. So here we have here a double two options in our, either this is, let's say, the end user interface or the programming user interface. Of course, we have also a password protection here. If you activate the password protection, user administration system, you can give put behind of each of the buttons a password, so that only users with the right level or password can go into the integration, so that maybe the user at the machine doesn't have only the option start and stop, and all the others are behind a different level of passwords. So we have here, for example, also the main menu. This is really nice if you want to have access, if you don't have this integration button, if you only want to have access to the main menu to do some adjustment on the iVision main system. And of course, let's have another look to another demo. So we had the DMC code reading. I think it was nearly clear how it works. And if you download all of these, you see here, we have also this QR code reader, and we open up this example, and here we have the same. In this case, we read the QR codes, and of course, if you go to the integration mode, we see also the QR code reader has not so many options. Either you use it on a complete image, or you use it anywhere else, and also the speed here is limited, not based on the QR code reader. It's limited on here our 200 milliseconds. It makes sense. So if we deactivate it, we can read it much faster, of course. This is exactly the same like the DMC code reader. There's also not so much to adjust in the code reading. Of course, a good illumination is always good, no question, and you should also for the DMC code, you should reach the definition of the code, the codes. That means normally you need a quiet zone. In many cases, the software don't care and can read it anyway. But if the zone around the QR code is too small, then one cannot distinguish where the outside where the code is and where the rest is. Then it might be a little bit difficult. But this is background. But as long as you belong to the definition of the QR code or the DMC codes, the code reader is working. In many cases, it's working also in all other cases. Also, you can do some pre-processing if you think, okay, maybe I want to delete the stuff around it. You can use a filter and delete the stuff around it, and then so that the code reader doesn't have a problem. It depends on how you want to adjust it. You could also, if you know, I have a PCB and it's in any rotation, or I have a part in any rotation, and I know where the code is, then you could also use, first of all, a search tool to see how the orientation of the part is, and then do the code reading at the right position. That depends on how you want to handle it, or how you can handle it. And finally, of course, we had this, not finally, we had two other interesting things. Let's go. We have the barcode, of course. Barcode is similar. We have implemented. And the only difference is, here we go to the barcode demo. And of course, we see here again, we do here barcode reading. If we go to the integration mode, we see here the barcode reading is once again, the stopwatch is here on top. Let's say, cut, paste, and not 1 second, we make 200, so that we have on the same, we are on the same level. Should be always. So the barcode reading tool is working the same. You say either you do it on the complete image or on a minimal window. You can tell the system one barcode. If you want to make it faster, you can tell him, oh, we have only horizontal or vertical barcode. We have one or multiple barcodes. So this would things speed up. Or you say, try out all barcodes and find out which you can read. Or if you know, okay, I have only ARN code or whatever, then you can tell him, okay, this is the ARN code. This means at the end, if you do this, if you don't tell him search in your complete image, and if you find a barcode, check which one it is. Of course, this needs some simply computation power. And if you tell him, okay, this is a 2.5 interleaved code, and it's always in horizontal, it's always horizontal, and it's only one barcode, of course, then it's faster. So the basic setup is search anything anywhere and return me the barcode, which is nice because you don't have to think so much. On the other hand, it's also difficult if you say read any barcode he could find in the field of view. If you have multiple barcodes, any of the barcodes, if you have an ARN and a, let's say 2.5 interleaved, he would, and if you read only one, you get only one of the barcodes, and then you say, okay, it's wrong. So in some cases, it makes sense to tell him, look, I'm looking for the ARN code only, then he searches only for the ARN code. And if you know anyway, oh, the barcode is at that location, then you give him the location, then he doesn't care about all the barcodes, which might be anywhere in the image. So this is the advantage if you do some adjustments. The same thing like for QR code and DMC code, you put it to the global ring, and finally you could also put the code in a register, or you can display it as we do it. And of course, you can also do some comparison here in the code. If you have in the global string, you have always the option to do the string comparison after it's in the global string. So there are a lot of additional options which you can use. Of course, you can send it out as to any other system. All these options are available because it's part of EyeVision. Or you can also receive a string or a number, the number of the next barcode, and you simply can compare it. All this, so in this case, that's why we have this evaluation. You can get it first, and you see, and can compare it to the sent in data strings. All these options are here. If you don't know how to configure, I really recommend to open up the context help. You get a lot of information about the barcodes, and then you can simply adjust it. Or if you need help, simply put some captured barcodes in a project file, as I showed it to you, and make your small program. Send the project file zipped to us in a zip file, and someone can have a look at it and give you some ideas how to make it better or how to improve speed or whatever your questions are. We try to answer it. And yes, this I think it's not so much to discuss about this tools, because the tools are really self-explaining, and in most cases you don't have to even to adjust the parameters to it. Of course, we didn't talk about the result column. So depending on if the barcode, if he could find a barcode or not. I don't see it. Okay. I got just the information that someone is waiting, but I don't see it. Sorry for this short interruption. Yes, what I want to say, yes, you could do some conditions. Of course, you can do everything what ivision can do. Means if there's no barcode, you can handle. You can jump anywhere to handle either in to a mark or in a subroutine to handle this error. Or if you can say, okay, if I read a valid code, I can send it. If I didn't read it, I can do that. So all these options are basic things from ivision. I didn't mention them, but I think it's evident you have all these functions. We call these functions infrastructure. It means sending, receiving, and so on. And also, if you want to send it out to a database, you have, if it's a SQL database, you have a direct SQL database. Or if you want to send your resulting barcode by mail or any other information, all these tools are there. It's only a question of combination to make your complete solution, and on all platforms. Also the access to, you can send out it by Profinet. So you have all these communication functions. If you go to the application parameters, you will find here all the setups for the software. Of course, all the input channels. Here we have the hardware configurator anyway integrated, which we saw at the very beginning. So you can select here when you change between the projects, also the configurator. And here you see all the communication interfaces from TCP/IP over RS2CD, Profinet, Modbus, and so on. Here you have you can generate a job list which can be activated based on our Pick Online interface. And here you define also how a project will be executed when the project is opened. So these are configuration parameters which doesn't belong to the code reading, which simply belong to the ivision, which enables you, which are always there. If you use ivision, you can tell the system, if you start up, automatically go into the barcode reading program, wait for the PLC or whatever, and so on. This is all these setups are done here in this setup. And here you see all the configuration for the different hardware interfaces which we support for the PLC I/O. It's also not part of the code reading stuff. It's simply if you want to get information which code should come, you could select as the interface to your, let's say, PLC Profinet, or you can use EtherCAT Modbus, Ethernet IP, or of course you can also use the MQTT MQTT as a communication protocol. Or if you have a more SCADA system which should communicate directly, or you have to communicate directly with it because it's the code reading is anywhere in the should anywhere go directly to your main storage system, then you can connect this, or of course you can use any RS-232 interface. Right now we see, okay, there is no physical RS-232, but if it's there, you can send it to out it, or you can use, as we used it, TCP/IP, UDP, or of course you can send it also in an INI file or in any kind of string file. You should have a look to all of this information because you can use it simply. Maybe finally, we also said we can code reading or 3D. Of course, we can do it. And I didn't ported all the 3D stuff. I only ported this one here to show it today to you, because ivision 4 is still on the way to be the main, our main version. And here is one example of how to do code reading in 3D. Of course, we do here multiple 3D code reading. And here we have this, this is a point cloud, you can see it. And of course, we could make here for a code reader for a point cloud, of course, but it doesn't make so much sense at the end. It's the same, you need some contrast. But what's really important is if you have a point cloud, you need a tool which can operate on point cloud and can adjust the point cloud. So that's what we are doing with the 3D functions here. Mainly, this is the original point cloud image. And what we are doing here is now we simply select from the point cloud this section and copy it here in a second image memory. And here we do an adjustment on the complete point cloud to flatten it up, because it's a tire, it's round. And we can, that's a nice thing what you can do with point clouds. You can do a lot of adjustments in point cloud, which you cannot do, even if maybe you have, if it's not even, you have, in gray, you have a gray to black conversion. You have the option to simply adjust this in the point cloud, and then you simply convert it into a gray image. And based on that, you can do the OCR reading. Exactly that's what we are doing here. We generate out of the point cloud, which is first of all adjusted based on this complete scan. This is a complete tire here. So you can see it, this tire was scanned based on a robot. And after this scan, we simply selected the area where we want to do the reading. And then at the end, we use a subroutine where we have our standard code reader inside. Of course, here you could use also the new code reader to do this, because these numbers are really nice. The good thing is, or why we use the standard code reader in this case, because the character sets are really different, and it's much easier to train these character sets based on character sets for these tires. And that makes it, in this case, easier to use our standard code reading OCR tool. Of course, we wasted maybe, or we used most of the time for the code reading, for the OCR code reading tool. I think you understand why, because the other tools are nearly self-explained. But if you have any questions, simply feel free and contact us and ask us. Maybe one short project which I want to show you, only that you see how you can make different user interfaces. I have this user interface here, which shows you some of the options you can make if you if you want to make a user interface. Of course, also no command administration means no password, but if you activate the password, then you need the password. So here we have an intermediate user interface. Maybe the process mode is for the machine user, and the configuration for the more advanced user, which knows how to adjust things, maybe the radius or what, or who is allowed to adjust things. And finally, of course, the integration, which gives you full access to the programming environment. And finally, what I want to show you here, I mentioned about the web interface. Of course, the software has by default a web interface, and you have, if you declare no, as it has a web interface, if you simply add some 0, 0, 1. So you can define the access port. So in this case, it seems we didn't have activated here the our web server. Let's see. No. So to program control web server, yeah, it's not activated. So that's nice. Now we say okay. Now I'm really surprised if it's working. No, we have to restart this. In this case, we open up it again. Else we use iVision 3 because I never tried it. Web name, okay. So now, anyway, we get the feedback that the web server is running. For some reason, we don't deliver the. Let's open another one. No. Maybe there's some work to do. As you see, we told our this is our application from which we made at the very beginning with the orange background and so on. So he simply opened it up only to show you that's still working. And now we had another look to our hopefully now working web interface. Let's see. So in this case, I would start the old version because I don't know, I never tried it with the version 4. Okay, it should work anyway, but we can, what I want to show you is exactly, you can do it, of course, with the iVision 4 also. Don't know why for the moment I couldn't do it. I think it now should run. Here we wait that it starts up. And in a second, you can see, in a second, I don't see anything. Yes, of course, I think you can imagine the, here we are. It took only a second, maybe he was a little bit confused about the different interfaces. So we go to our 2D area examples, to the web gear, and what you see now, it's the same as before. You see all the things are identical. Of course, some of the newer stuff is not here. The more important thing what I wanted to show you is that if you open up this one here, this should also, or this will show up if you also with the iVision 4 version. I think there is a configuration thing, and then you can control all the iVision from anywhere, from any web browser in your network, or which is connected to your network. so that you have full access also from the web browser immediately if you simply define these web pages. And of course, everything supported. So yes, this was one thing what I wanted to show you with iVision 4. So I think you can imagine it's working also with the new version. For the moment, I would say thank you that you took the time and attended the code reading webinar. I hope it was somewhat helpful for you or somewhat interesting. If you have any questions, simply feel free to send any comments to support@evt-web.com. And I thank you very much. And yes, hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye.